Welcome to Techtastic, where we navigate the intersection of technology and business, uncovering innovations that redefine our world.
Justin Fortier, welcome to It's Techtastic. It is lovely to have you here.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Tell me about your journey and how you think about starting a business in the first place and how that fits into your overall strategy.
Cool. So the best way to get started on that is to explain how I started FYC back in 2012. That seems so long ago now. So I actually came out of grad school in 08, 09. Not the best time to be looking for a job if you guys are familiar with that era, right? So I jumped in and started working at bars and restaurants with a master's degree. So it was great, though. I met some of the coolest people, some of the most influential small business owners in my career, explained to me how to build a consortium of businesses. They were doing it around restaurants, bars, craft cocktails, kind of that scene at that time. And I was looking to start my own business, and I was good at the technical side. I was good at the marketing side. And I ended up partnering with an amazing graphic designer named Pablo Stanley. He is just one of the most interesting personalities, one of the most talented individuals. And he said, he came back looking for a busser job. And I'm like, what? No, no. You and I are doing something more. So we started FYC. It started as the goal being, get some clients, but then eventually build up our own internal products, build up our own websites. We started a comic series. We started a poster series, some really cool creative projects that we started initially. Both of us did get lured away, as many do, when a lot of early stage startup folks, they get kind of, baited into some of the, he went to Udemy. I went to a manufacturing SaaS company and worked kind of in the normal job for a while. Meanwhile, the business was kind of humming along in the background. It was a lifestyle business, kind of side hustle for several years during that time while he and I went in our separate ways, kind of working for bigger companies. That SaaS business taught me a ton about programming, kind of introduced me to software development versus just web development, websites. I then jump over to blockchain. I spent 4 years in blockchain at 2017 to 2021. Amazing time to be working in blockchain. We built some really cool stuff around geospatial data being pushed onto the Ethereum network. So then I come back to the agency in 2021, where I had a buyout of some of my existing partners. I had a really cool private equity offer to buy out my partners, and I brought a partner on board named Graham Peck. He has been amazing. It reinvigorated the agency, and it brought back that model of let's build our own internal products. And then I took that kind of what I learned from that consortium of restaurant owners and bar owners back in like the 2008, 2012 era, and then started applying that to a syndicate, or what we now call the Fractal Group of businesses, where we have our own accounting platform that we've developed. We have our own investor, founder, CRM that we've generated. We have a media company that does cinematography, photography. So we have all these different businesses now within the group. We're at 21 total businesses. There's a venture arm where we are raising for those businesses, but many of them are small businesses, service type businesses, and homegrown products.
So when you say venture arm, do you mean that you're actually, you have a fund, or that that's a group that's going out and raising capital within
It's a group of angel investors. So I wouldn't, it's hard to call it a fund, but we call it venture because that's just there's no appropriate word for it. So we call it our venture arm.
Very interesting. And so you've got repeat investors that are very excited with what you're doing. They like to continue to put money into new opportunities, gives them another bite of the apple each time.
Yeah, and we also have companies we brought in from the outside who we've invested in, and then we kind of provide them with discounted services, access to advising, things like that. So not so much in a startup studio state because we're not that formal, but we have that approach, and that community is really what's been important, is just creating that community of businesses that can, borrow ideas, talent, and kind of grow together.
That's fantastic. So there's a whole bunch of things in there I wanted to catch on. You said comic, and I want to know more what you meant by that, because I'm not sure if you're talking about like comic strips or if you're stand-up.
Yep. Comic strips. No, comic strips, yeah.
We have a lot in common. I did a number of them for a long period of time, and one of my startups was called The Funnies. It was one of the few times I tried to get out of technology and do something that just was fun. And it was literally the funny section of the newspaper. That was
I remember that, yeah, but somebody used to call it that, the funnies, yeah.
Yeah, it ended up being pretty big until about 2008, when the print industry completely collapsed, and the printers I was using across the country, all of them were shuttered. And I was like, well, I guess I'm done. But I did comic strips myself for a long time. The first one was called Cold Coffee, and it was about a squirrel and an albino magpie who watched the world through a cafe. They lived in a tree. They were both afraid to come down of it, and they watched the world and made commentary on it, what happened in front of them.
Ours were more juvenile. Our big hit was Boner Man. Boner Man was a big hit for us.
Nice. Definitely more juvenile.
But we had a good time. But yeah, it's such a cool opportunity to just have a creative outlet. Like you said, we're in tech, you get so caught up in if else statements. I need something.
I often thought of them as almost like two fists. You got code and then draw, or like creative and logical, and you almost have to always put them together for it to be really exciting.
And to be fair, I was not the one doing most of the illustrations and creative. That was Pablo. But what I was his inspiration. Pablo's is English is a second language, so he would listen to things that I would say. At one point, I told him to cut the shit and tell me what's going on, and he goes, "Cut the sheet? What is this? Cut the sheet?" And then 2 days later, he has a comic of a guy chopping up some shit, and the guy's girlfriend's asking him, "Do I look good in this?" And he's like, she goes, "Cut the shit. Tell me how I look." And he's sitting there cutting the shit, and he goes, "You look fat and ugly." I'm like, dude. So I was his muse. Nice. But we were in the business together. We worked together on it. It was cool going through that process and having some fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was there was webcomics were really big about that time too. So yep. Love that going on. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Most of it's just meme stuff now. It's just meme material, yeah. Right?
And there's no way today to really make a living off of that like there was there for a brief shining moment. So it's
yeah. You use all that to kind of build a personal brand so you get yourself a job. Right?
That was the second thing, is that about that time period when the Funnies closed, I was doing the first version of this podcast, which was called Success U. And me and my business partner, who had another business on the side called Innovocus, kind of actually what you're doing. We ended up too successful with the consulting side of it and got pulled away. I got yanked into Nike to be their entrepreneur and help them build out their digital innovation teams and their direct-to-consumer business, which turned into while I was there, it went from nothing to a $2 billion a year part of the business. Now it's like 16. He went off and did some other stuff, and I got stuck in that exact same trap that you did, right? Where you're working for the paycheck, but the paycheck's so large that it was hard to you can't really complain about it because you're doing well, but you're not betting on yourself. You're not swinging for the fences, and eventually I had to get back to it. For me though, I took a little longer.
Yeah I mean, well, that's very true. That's super tempting, and that's sort of like that. A lot of entrepreneurial journeys end up that way, where they really are just getting themselves a personal brand, because maybe they don't want to deal with the corporate hierarchy and the battles and the politics that help them kind of level up within a corporate environment. So they go ahead and they spin off their own company, and maybe they get acquired, and they just end up with jobs within these organizations. I've got friends who are in that position. They got paid out okay. The earnouts are so difficult anyways on half these acqui-hires that I'm like, you're just getting a job. So I've been very careful not to do that. I have been sucked in a few times, like you said. I've done that too. It's easy to get enticed into that, and it's flattering when you get those offers over and over, and it's hard to say no to these people who are like, "Oh, I need you." Fractional CTO stuff. I mean, I did pick up CTO work, right? It's really hard to say no to those people because you can help them. They've got the funding, but you've got to bet on yourself. And there's a really cool. There's something interesting along that same lines that occurred when my wife's father passed away. He left some money, not a lot, but I went and talked to every person that I knew, every person I looked up to, and I said, "Hey, if you had this much money, what would you do?" Some people say reinvest in real estate. Some people say throw it in stocks and bonds. Some people say do this, do that. And I had the guy that I worked for at the bar at the time, really great guy, Nathan Stanton. I don't know what he's doing today, but he was really successful at that consortium holdings group down in San Diego. Great group to work for. He gave me some really interesting advice. He's like, one thing I regret is that I didn't bet enough on myself. So exactly what you said. He's like, if I do it all over again, I would have bet it all on myself. And that's so interesting that I think we're all I look back on that. I didn't bet on myself. I did bet part, we did some of it for ourselves. We did buy some real estate in San Diego that did okay. But, if there's anything I regret, and during that time, was I just didn't bet on myself enough.
Yeah, no, that's the one that haunts me a little bit. And for me, I pride myself on being a strong learner. And I'm always seeking out the opportunity for mentorship to like learn from somebody else that's done what I haven't, right? And I'm always striving for it. And that has led me in some ways to almost doubt myself more than I should. Others were more willing to bet on what I knew and what I said than I was myself, because I would say it with a certain amount of like, I don't know if I quite believe it, right?
Right? You always feel like you're a little bit that's imposter syndrome, right? That's the phrase everybody uses. Yeah.
And the reality was, this actually just recently happened, where I was hired by a very large company to help them try and spin off another company. And in the middle of it, the person that we brought in as the CEO of that group was like, Christian, you're the best entrepreneur I've ever met. And I was like, whatever, Kim, you sold to Google, you've done more than I have. And she goes, yeah, but I didn't know any of those things. The things that you just said about product development, growth, all that kind of stuff. Even how you think about organizing teams. She goes, I don't know anybody like that. Would you mind being my mentor? And I was like, what? You're ex-McKinsey. Like, you've done all these things. I haven't done any of those things. She goes, yeah, you've been in the battle. You've been doing it for a long time. You've tripped on all the landmines along the way. You've learned. And these are things that I've never really gone through. It's like, okay, great. So now I'm the old man, the wise and now people are supposed to listen to me. And I'm like, well, okay, well, if that's true, and I still have a lot of learning to do, everybody does. I haven't done large numbers of the things I wish I had. Then why am I not taking the bet on myself? I'm convincing these companies to bet on me.
Right.
Why am I not taking that bet? Which is what got me right back into it. And I love it. It's a stressful life. You never feel like you're quite attaining everything you think you should, because I don't know, I always feel like there's another mountain to climb, there's another hill to go over, and you're always looking at that. And
I think it's more like there's another bullet to dodge.
Yeah, geez.
Right? Because as an entrepreneur, you're really just paranoid of the next bullet, right? The next mountain, you've got the legs, you've got the arms, you've acclimated, you can climb Mount Everest if you had to. But the problem is you don't know what bullets are coming at your head, because maybe some market shift will occur, or somebody in your team will have suddenly, I don't know, embezzled money, whatever it may be. That's never happened to me, by the way. I don't want to think, but like, there's always, to me, it's the paranoia of what the hell could I potentially, like, what's going to suddenly show up. I know if my goals are there, happy path, I can tackle that mountain. I got it. I'm willing to work the 12 hours a day if I have to, 15 hours Elon Musk, sleep in X's headquarters if I have to. But it's the unknowns that get me and cause me always to have that lack of but then what I do is I roll back and I say, well, if I were an employee, would I feel just as if I were a day-to-day employee for one of these, if I were at Amazon? No, just watched all those people lose a bunch of jobs. So like the certainty becomes relative. So that's what's allowed me to continue that journey, and I can't go back. I'm actually more confident now. Like I said, I regret some of the ways that I did not trust myself or not bet on myself. But now I'm like, I actually feel more comfortable in this position as an entrepreneur than if I were to go get a job, because I know probably at the job I'd be disruptive. I'd probably piss someone off. Right?
Yeah, the bullet dodging thing was exactly right, because as soon as you said it, I was like, that's it. It's the fear of the unknown coming from, and it could be a giant competitor with a machine gun coming at you, or it could be the silent killer of some startup in the corner in the bushes, right? That you have no idea is there. So true. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, because I saw the shirt and it says it says something Yeti Hockey Club.
The Yeti Hockey Club. Yeah.
So do you play hockey, first of all?
Of course, yeah. I mean, you can see, well, your viewers can't see it, but I have a broken nose right now and a little bit of a black eye because I took a stick to the face a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's not a pretty sport, but yeah, go on.
No, I played 20 seasons with firefighters, and
awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. I only stopped recently because the nearest ice rink I have to take a ferry to get to, so it's just not practical, right? But I love ice hockey, favorite game. My wife's grandfather played in the NHL before they wore helmets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was big into it.
I'm sure his nose is probably crooked too.
And they didn't wear helmets, and he was just an amazing skater. Even at like 90 years old, he could still outskate me.
Right. Yeah. It's a crazy skill that just never goes away. It's like riding a bike, right? So
yeah, very cool.
But it's applicable to some of this too. I use hockey analogies all the time. Like about playing defense or yeah.
Yeah. Actually, my co-founder's a Canadian, and he grew up playing hockey. It's the only sport he ever played, and so most of our internal dialogue about things, we use hockey as the principal metaphor for it.
You guys would absolutely kick my butt. I'm a California hockey player, so where. Although there's some pretty good players out of California now. What is it? Isn't Austin Matthews, or maybe he's out of Phoenix? I don't know.
He's Phoenix, but
Phoenix, yeah.
Actually, I never thought that California hockey was particularly bad. There's just a lot of ice rinks, so there's a lot more opportunity, and there's just great high school athletes and junior athletes because there's so much competition.
There's a lot of people here too, yeah. So
yeah. Whereas the Pacific Northwest, we had probably more ice rinks per capita, but there's not that much competition.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
Like Boston, I was playing there. I was shocked how bad most of the players were. It's like
really in Boston, you expect them? Yeah, there's just like
you grew up playing,
Yeah.
didn't you? They're like, yeah, but pond hockey with my friends and they all suck.
Right. Yeah, very different. I mean, I played roller hockey even, so there you go. There's some California for you.
Oh wow, I did a little bit, but after I played ice hockey for a long time, and it was dangerous because there's on ice, there's things you can't do on rollerblades, and I didn't know that for the first couple times I was out there doing it.
Like a hockey stop?
Oh yeah, that's a big one, right? Like you keep your momentum in both sports, but the way that you do it in hockey is usually like the transitions forward to backward, like the way you're doing that. If you tried that on rollerblades, you're dead. Like you're
going end over real fast.
Yeah.
I have a hard time. So I ski also. So I think in 1 week I skied, played roller hockey and ice hockey. My feet were so confused.
Oh man, yeah. Well, skiing. Yeah, I grew up skiing more than playing hockey. So the skiing thing, people were, as I was learning to play hockey more and more, they're like, Hedges, it's the same idea. I'm like,
yeah, it's the same idea.
But it's not. I mean, it is, but it's a different pace, and your footwork, and even your stance is different. So it's different muscle
you
memory.
Pick it up faster than someone who doesn't do either sport, right? Going either way. But at the same time, that transition back and forth, remembering what you're supposed to do, like this weird muscle memory that just gets confused.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of spills for like, oh, I'm not on ice. Oh, I'm on skis.
Yeah. Sorry, I totally distracted. I'm easily distracted.
It's all good.
So I want to know more about what you guys are working on. What's the meta plan? Like besides the consortium, like as you're picking off individual businesses, starting each one up, there's a puzzle that you're putting together, I imagine.
Yeah. So again, it all kind of comes back to the lesson that I learned working for those small businesses down in San Diego is we're creating a community of projects that we can move people from one to the other and retain talent longer. As you know, in technology, talent tends to be about a 2-year lifespan. They find other things. They get bored of one project, want to move on to the other. So what I have is the ability we use similar systems throughout all the businesses. We have a playbook, so to speak. It's not as formal as you'd get out of one of those entrepreneurial conventions that sell you their playbook, but we have a general playbook that we use that allows, and boilerplate code that we have from project to projects, project management tools that are similar. So what it does is it gives us a community of people who get to try on different hats, get to be a little bit of an entrepreneur, get to go play in creative worlds, get to go play in the technical world, and allows us to create this talent pool that we retain all of that reinvestment that we put into those people. So I think what's really sucky about a lot of technology startups is they put so much time and effort into creating that culture and that team, and then again someone gets acqui-hired away, or they're just basically resume building. But what we've created is people who've been staying with us for 10, 11 years. And it's pretty awesome. And it all came from that concept from the restaurant group that I was at, because they use the same POS. Okay, they had the same checkout, like end of night closing procedures. We all had parties together when all the different restaurants would come together, and we would trade shifts with people from different restaurants, and the talent pool just became so deep. So our goal is to continue to build the community. That's really, if you want to, like our current meta goal is to just continue to build this community of talent, investors, and systems to grow all of our different verticals. So again, kind of diversifying what we're doing in terms of some cash flow services businesses with some venture type businesses, some in homegrown startups, bootstrap startups, and all will kind of moving people around and keeping that momentum and fun going. That allows us to have many different shots, right? So we have 2 in particular right now. There are sort of our moon shots that we have, which are 2 SaaS products, one called Accrue and another one called DealSend. These products, Accrue aims to kind of solve the problem of accounts receivable and payable. So automate your invoice reminders, provide client statements that are beautiful and wonderful and easy to look at, not silly PDFs that you get out of QuickBooks, and also some budgeting and planning around projects. The other one is DealSend, which connects investors and founders together and creates a joint CRM with automated due diligence. So those are our two big SaaS products that we're hoping to get to that, $50 million ARR rate that gives us the wonderful exit. So we do have those plays, but in the meantime, we have an agency that's got 50 people working at it. We've got good clients building stuff for Remax, Founder Shield, National University, good clients like that. And then in 2 weeks, I'm going to Las Vegas to go to EDC because our cinematography business won the media contract for shooting all of Las Vegas EDC at the Motor Speedway. And they're hoping to, maybe we can get the F1 stuff over there. And there's just so much cool different things going on that it's hard. It's a lot of context switching, but it's pretty amazing to see the whole group coming together.
Amazing. So if people want to know more about what you're doing, they're looking for a job, they're not ready to bet on themselves, or they have something that might be a good opportunity to partner with you, where would they go?
FYCLabs.com is the primary day-to-day job. So that's our software development agency. You can check out fractalgroup.io as well, as if you want to kind of check out what we're doing as the Fractal Group. DealSend.io if you want to learn about that investor platform, and Accrue.co if you want to learn about our invoicing platform.
Justin, this has been an amazing conversation. I loved having you on. I learned a ton. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Likewise, fun to talk to a fellow hockey player.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Techtastic. I want to thank you personally for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Until then, keep exploring and stay curious. Thank you for listening. If you are new here and enjoyed the content, please subscribe. It really helps us out. And if you are a regular listener, thanks so much for your continued support.
Overwhelmed by tech debt? Discover Vala AI, the solution to tech challenges with the simplicity of a click. No engineering background? No problem. Vala AI enables anyone to effortlessly tackle tech issues, freeing up your time from tech headaches. Make tech debt vanish with Vala AI, where your tech solutions are just a click away.